Hi, this is Bifflecup with the Triheart podcast. Today we're interviewing Director of Transgender Emergency Fund of Massachusetts, Chastity Bowick, with featured music by Tris.
That it kills gals like me. So you and I should exact revenge. Kill the curiosity within me. I've been thinking about it for quite some time. It never crossed my mind that you thought of it too. What a pleasant surprise. Can't believe that I get to find out all about the days with you. Do you ever wonder about the taste? Let's pace ourselves. Let's not. What if we got to lose? How could I refuse the chance to find out all about the days with you? Not long ago you seemed so far, far away like a fading dream. But here you are now right beside me. Now here we stand, just you and I. And darling, I cannot deny. I wanna know exactly what your kiss tastes like. Whoa, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Hi, Chastity.
Hi, good morning.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and the Transgender Emergency Fund.
So I became a volunteer director 5 years ago. The Transgender Emergency Fund actually started, though, in 2008 by a trans guy named Jesse Pack in Worcester, Massachusetts. And the need came out of a homeless trans woman who needed shelter. And so himself and a bunch of other community members came together and raised funds, but they exceeded their expectations. So then they decided, okay, well, let's keep this going and see who else we can help. So at that time, from 2008 to 2015, AIDS Project Worcester was our physical sponsor, and then we got our own 501c3. I came into the picture in 2013 as a recipient of the Transgender Emergency Fund. I was trying to leave an abusive relationship, became homeless, discriminated against in shelters, which I found myself on the streets, indulging in survival sex work, survival drug use, and it's a continuous cycle of oppression. And someone told me about the Trans Emergency Fund. I called them and they provided me a safe space while I get back on my feet. And that gave me the time to not only get myself together, but figure out how can I give back to my community? Because when I needed assistance, there was no guidance. I didn't have anyone to look up to and say, help me navigate these crazy streets. So that's why I decided to start volunteering. And it started by starting a support group in Worcester. And then I came to Boston and just expanded my scope of work here. And now the Trans Emergency Fund has gone to such great heights, and we're still got a lot way to go. But our main now is, what we do provide is homeless intervention, rental startup, transportation to your medical appointments. We pay for prescription co-payments. We also just started our new nutrition program back in May, where every 2 weeks we provide fresh produce to low-income trans folks across the state. And starting in October, we will be having our care and support program. It's our spin on mental health, because I feel like when you say mental health services, people end up seeing like a sting or a diagnosis. So we don't want that. We feel like everybody deserves care and support, and we want to be able to provide that regardless of insurance restrictions. So I'm very excited about that. But my main priority, I can't stress this enough, is our transitional housing program. So back in June, Trans Resistance formed a march on behalf of the Transgender Emergency Fund. And our goal was to raise $100,000 to start this transitional housing program. We have exceeded that goal. So it's very exciting, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. So now we're in talks with the city to try to see if they can help us get a building or some space.
Wow.
So we start this program, because health and homelessness go hand in hand. And all they do to me and my community members is tear us down with HIV and that we're prostitutes. You know, they report every year for the past 3 years that transgender individuals are at most risk and have the highest rates of HIV, yet the funding is more directed to cisgender gay men. So there's a discrepancy there.
Right.
And how do you want us to worry about getting tested if I don't know where I'm going to sleep tonight, or I don't know where my next meal is going to be? Some of these community-based organizations, those are the only resources that they're providing, is a test. That's it. So they could say, oh, we made this quota, we tested these many trans people, but what about the other necessities that go along with that? So the Transgender Emergency Fund, we just try to stop that cycle of oppression by providing the tools and resources one needs to be sustainable.
I was going to save this question for later, but you kind of hit it on the notes. So I was going to say, I'm a cisgender gay man, and some rhetoric that has been going on is like the L's, the G's, the B's, and even some of the Q's, they're kind of, in a way that it feels like they're progressing, and it feels like the trans community is getting left behind. Do you feel like that? And do you feel like there's something for people in the community that they should be doing more to help people that have been left behind? Absolutely.
I mean, honestly, my honest opinion, first of all, we were set up for failure from the jump by adding us to that acronym, because it's gender identity and sexual orientation is two completely different things. And that misconception has rooted itself in our community, especially within the Black community. They think trans women are gay. We all have penises between our legs, and that's the narrative of within our communities. And I feel as though we were there. We started the fight, the Stonewall riots. And I feel like we were there alongside gay and lesbian individuals, you know, fighting for gay marriage. And we always stood up and fight alongside. And I feel like now that our lives are at stake, we're being killed, we're being beaten, we're being attacked, we're being raped. I feel like where are our allies?
Mm-hmm.
Like, not enough. Like, it's just not enough. And people were like, oh, what do you want them to do? I want them to stand up. I want them to come out. I want them to fight alongside of us. I want them to put their dollars where their mouth is when they say that they care about this community. I know money isn't everything, but when it comes to this community right now, it's what we need. And it's not like we're asking for special privileges. We just want basic humane rights. If I have a substance abuse order, I should be able to go to a substance abuse treatment for women. It shouldn't be a question of, did you have this surgery? Are you taking hormones? Have you been on for this amount of time? Like, don't degrade me less of a human being. So I just want my lesbian, gay, queer allies to really take a step back and take a look from our eyes and see the things. How do you think it feels to turn on the news every day and hear that White House administration trying to repeal back some type of protections for trans folks, or you're hearing about women being beaten in Los Angeles? It's like every week is something, and it is just taking a toll on all of us, because when we leave our house, we're not guaranteed to come back home. that's a problem. So I just feel like there's so much that people can do, especially those in the celebrity eye, like Ellen DeGeneres. You got all of this money, that so-called Caitlyn Jenner, whatever you call yourself, you got all of this money, you claim you're a part of this community. What are you doing? And even people from the trans community who are in the spotlight, like Laverne Cox and Janet Mock, and what are you all doing? Like, I'm curious to know, because if it's behind the scenes, it's too much behind the scenes because we can't get to the resources that you're providing, if there are any. So I just feel like it's so much that people can do. Like, I should not be working 40 hours in BMC as a manager in the emergency department, which is a high stress level job. And then before I even get there to start that 3 o'clock shift, I already been working since 6 a.m. on nonprofit stuff that I haven't been getting paid for because things have to get done. Like, I shouldn't have to have that burden on me because we can't get city money to pay for payroll. I'm trying to find grants to pay for payrolls and salaries so I can get paid to do this work full time. Like, it's just so many ways that people can try to find ways to assist us. And us in Massachusetts, we will be making a press statement within the next couple of months about urging people to get involved with these causes. There are so many buildings being built in Boston that no one can afford. One of these developers, come on board. Like, show your support and gratitude to this community. The Patriots Foundation, the Red Sox Foundation, they all want to post these pictures and we care about trans lives. Well, help us care about trans lives by helping us get housing for trans lives. I just feel like it's a lot of talking and not enough action.
That is so true. I was just through like my experience. So I had identified you as like an LGBT man, and when it comes to my identity, like the people in my community, it's like, oh, so exciting to want to lift me up and like be there and protect me and stuff like that. But when it's time to like treat me like an actual person, there's like a disconnect there. I don't know if that's something you relate to.
All the time. I mean, it's even where I've had cisgender friends. I'm at their house and, you know, we're having a good time, having dinner, or their boyfriend or husband come home and it's like, okay, you have to go now. It's like, okay. Or it's even been times where even more, and this hurts me even more to my soul, when I've had friends, and I say had because that's not a friend, where you don't want me around your child, or you feel some sort of way about me around your child, or like are pedophiles, and that is so disheartening from someone who is a survivor of molestation from being in a foster home. I couldn't fathom. Like, I know I'm going to be a parent one day and I'm going to be such a mama bear. It's going to be crazy because I'm a protector and a nature at heart. But those are the type of situations that I found myself in when trying to have genuine cisgender friendships, and it feel like either they don't fully trust me or they want me not to progress. It's weird.
So, okay, so you're directing their emergency fund. I've read that you're involved in the Mass Transgender Political Coalition. I've read that you're the program coordinator for Transcend, and you're credited for many organizations and events. So what is like the transgender community facing that it's necessary to have all these tools?
Our lives are at stake, whether that be through drug use, abuse, having to indulge in survival sex work when we are often beaten, abused, and raped, or oftentimes killed. And so these services are adequately needed. And you mentioned Transcend. That program no longer exists. That was a program of AIDS Action and Fenway Health, and they lost the funding and didn't back. And that was the one program in the city that was engaging the most trans women of color. Those services were cut. And the Transgender Emergency Fund, we're trying to really pick up the slack from where they left off as well. But what's holding us back is the space. I only can do so much running it from my home, and my car is like, if you put one more mile on me, I'm gonna go crazy. So this is why the Trans Emergency Line is so important, because now we're the only agency in the state that is really providing these direct services to transgender folks. And if I'm not mistaken, we're the only ones in New England that are providing direct financial housing support. I don't know any other state that has a program where trans people can apply for rental assistance to get their first and last paid, or pay their utility bills. You know, we applied for COVID-19 relief funding, and the Boston Foundation allotted us $40,000 to where we were able to help some of our clients who were attacked, I would say, by COVID-19, either that being them being positive or laid off from their job and now they're behind in their rent. So we were able to get them current and get them ahead a few months. You know, we have people who electricity was being threatened to be cut off, even though they can't right now. So we just taking that burden off of a person when you already have so many other things going on. It's just like such a stress reliever. And the reason why I do what I do, it continues to push me, is the response that I get from our clients / members. I'm trying to get into using the word members instead of clients. It's much more personable. Is that, you know, the gratitude that they have, and it's like so many crying over the phone, like, oh my God, you paid my rent for what? Or I didn't know what was going to happen. I was preparing to be homeless, and to be able to stop that cycle of person saying, wait, nope, we're not going down that road. We're going to go this way. But we are here to pick you up. And not only do we provide the services, we like to check in. We like to go back 3 months and see, how are you doing? How can we help you? And that part is, you'll be amazed how many applications we get from out of state. Providence, California, Kentucky, a lot. And our services are only for people in Massachusetts. And right now, all of our services are contingent upon the availability of funds. So we currently get no state funding. We are solely based off of donations, fundraisers, and grants.
But if the situation's desperate, things can get mighty hectic for you. I'll whip up a potion and mess with your emotions. It's a seriously devilish brew. I tried understanding, but you just keep demanding that I don this black cloak and hat, spreading all these rumors that I fly on broomsticks. Tell me, how am I supposed to react? Queer ain't nothing to fear, but if you're looking for a thrill, baby, I'm your girl. Queer ain't nothing to fear, but if you want me to, I'll give you something to be afraid of. I'm no loony, but I'm howling at the moon because you think I'm some danger to you. Well, I can make the switch from sweet disposition to a terrifying vision, it's true. Yeah, you call me a freak, monster, or a beast, like you're waiting for me to attack. Well, you're all bark, but your words bite, so tonight I think it's time for me to bite back. Queer ain't nothing to fear, but if you're looking for a thrill, baby, I'm your girl. Queer ain't nothing to fear, but if you want me to, I'll give you something to be afraid of. I see your eyes follow me as I walk the street. My body tenses up from my head to feet. Tell me, is this how a monster's supposed to feel? Your fears are all made up, but my danger's real. Queer ain't nothing to fear, but if you're looking for a thrill, baby, I'm your girl. Queer ain't nothing to fear, but if you want me to, I'll give you something to be afraid of. Queer ain't nothing to fear, but if you're looking for a thrill, baby, I'm your girl. Queer ain't nothing to fear, but if you want me to, I'll give you something to be afraid of. Oh, yeah.
I followed this drag queen named Pearl on Instagram, and then so with the Beirut explosions earlier this month, she had kind of informed about this one GoFundMe that was just for people who had suffered, who were LGBT in Beirut. So it was just for them. And in the threads were like some of these comments like, oh, you know, we should be helping everybody. I don't know why we have to just be helping these LGBT. So if something like that had happened here, let's say it had happened here in Boston, would a fund just for LGBT people be necessary? And what tools might cis people or cis straight people in whichever scenario, like what tools would they have that they might not need this LGBT fund?
So that is interesting that you brought that up, because that conversation has been exploding on the Transgender Emergency Fund's Instagram page. So we actually had to turn off the comments because
wow.
Transphobia, racism, and it was like, oh, well, y'all keep having this emphasis on Black trans lives. What about the white trans women? They're going through things as well. And the emphasis is that, yes, we all go through struggles during our transition, but there's a greater emphasis on Black trans women because we're the ones that's being murdered at a disproportionate rate. So we serve the Trans Emergency Fund. We serve trans people and gender nonconforming people of all races. And to be honest with you, it's about 50-50 when it becomes between like white and Spanish. It's like pretty much equal, but we just have a greater emphasis because trans women of color need more help. Oftentimes we are more shunned from our family when we come out. A lot of Caucasian trans folks, they transition later in life. They get married and have kids and, you know, obtain this nice income sometimes, and then they transition, and it's like, okay, they have these things set up, and we don't have that a lot of. We don't have that. There's things that I've accomplished in my life that I was just crying and thank God, because I never thought I would be able to do that. Like me, a Black trans woman, I can't do that. And I think our programs are needed because we don't have those tools and resources. Like they weren't provided to us. Like we don't have some of the same resources that maybe a white transgender woman may have. So it's up to us to provide those resources. And I say, if you look at it in Boston, look at Cambridge, look at Newbury Street. Cambridge is a very gay, lesbian city with a lot of money. You don't see them over there struggling like we're struggling here in Dorchester, Mattapan, Roxbury, Hyde Park. Like, it's a completely different atmosphere, is a completely different way of living. And I think that if people are blessed to have been accomplished or blessed with certain wealth or jobs or income, I feel it's like your duty and your right to give back. Not only your income, but your time. Mm-hmm. Like we need volunteers, you know, we need people who can be hands-on. We need people who can donate items. Like we just had people who reached out, cisgender allies who want to purchase some of the items that we do in our first home starter kit. So one of our members is getting their first apartment, brand new queen size air mattress, you know, bed in the bag set, little towels, and then a $250 Visa gift card. So they can go like get like forks and knives and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And let them feel empowered. So we have people now who are donating these items to us so we can have them in stock on our storage, ready to go. And that's what I mean by allyship. We've had so many people reach out since the March, like, how can I be involved? I can drive, you know, so we're setting up our new volunteer program where, you know, everybody has to go through a query check because nobody will have contact with our members without it, because they are very near and dear to us and we're no different than any other organization. And so it's like, it's so many different ways to be involved. Educating your family, you know, educating your friends on trans issues and trans rights and how they can be involved to make sure that we're not excluded from basic human needs.
Right.
So it's just so many ways that people can get involved besides financially. And if they would like to do so, they want to donate, or if they want to volunteer or figure out other ways they want to be involved with the Transgender Emergency Fund, they can always go to our website at transgenderemergencyfund.org and, you know, reach out to me. The messages go straight to me. So if they have any questions, concerns, or just if they want to know more about the organization and where we see ourselves in 5 years. So
you had said that one of the things you had just said was like, talk to your family and educate your family and inform your family. What are some of like the common misconceptions or the misunderstandings about the transgender community that you might have heard through your experience?
we are not gay, first and foremost. So getting people to understand the difference between sexual orientation and gender identity. And that's a first start, is breaking down that stereotype or misconception, so I say. And then also is around our rights. Like imagine, like, you know, it's for you, like it's explaining to your mother. Imagine, Mom, you going into a restaurant and they're telling you to, they don't like the way you look, and you have no rights, and you will have to get out. And in your head, you're like, wait a minute, this isn't right. I'm calling the police. They can't make me leave. And the police comes and says, sir, you have to leave. Because prior to 2016 in Massachusetts, people had that right. Restaurants had that right. Laundromats, any public place had that right to tell us, I don't want to serve you. And that is still legal in many states. They can refuse the right to serve us. They can refuse the right to take our picture, trying to get our ID if they feel like our presence doesn't match up what our gender says on our ID. It's so many things that are happening, especially in the southern states, that we need to educate people on why the laws we need in place for our protections should be federal. So we're protected in all 50 states. You know, I should be able to explore and say, oh, I want to move somewhere else. And I have to be very cautious. Like, where am I moving to? Because I'm not protected everywhere. So we shouldn't have to think about that. I mean, I try to put people in our shoes and like, just imagine that. Imagine not being able to move where you want to move. Imagine not, you know, knowing if you're going to access the services you need when you go down to City Hall. You know, so I think it's about putting people and letting people, like, put yourself in their shoes. Like, just take a step back and think about it. And better yet, what if it was your son or your daughter?
Right, exactly.
How would you feel? Would you want people to treat them like that? Would you want society to be so cruel and so inhumane to them?
Right.
And some people, I guess they don't care, because look what they do to us. So it's so many ways you can educate. You could show by showing the statistics of our high murder rates. Also, I don't even know if you know this, the life expectancy that they set for transgender women is at 32 years old.
Wow.
So as a 34-year-old trans woman, I feel overly humbled and sometimes so happy that I'm nervous and I'm scared, because it's like, is this the year that it's going to be it for me?
Right.
You know, I get a lot of hate messages and things like that because I'm out there in the public eye. And so you never know. And I want to change that life expectancy number for us, because that's what kind of life is that? Right.
The platform that I have is like a music community. We do like video game music. So that it's like a little culture. And so I was interviewing someone named Abstract the Origin, who's an African-American musician, composer, producer. And he was kind of telling me, like, you know, I tried so hard to like make myself as non-threatening, as, you know, perfect as possible. Like, he just put all these restrictions on himself, so he did not come off as threatening to anybody, like in the white population or anything. So like, I see you doing all this activism and fighting back. If you did not, do you ever think, like, if you did not have all these restrictions, what would you be doing? Like, who would you be, do you think?
I'd probably be the governor of Massachusetts.
That's awesome.
And I honestly think that we would have excelled in our programming. I think that if I didn't have any restrictions, like, I honestly think that I would be somewhere in politics, providing policy and law change for the LGBTQIA community. Yeah, definitely. I remember one of my professors at Clark University, she said, if you ever run for office, I'll be a campaign manager. You know, we used to have debates in class all the time, and I always would do research on like the livelihood of trans folks in like Thailand and things like that for my research papers. And then I would debate people in class about, well, why that these issues matter versus whatever causes that they came up with. and I was pretty successful at most of my states. And I think that my time working with Mass Trans Political Coalition has put me on a path of obtaining more knowledge around politics and how to get involved with my local city officials and to make sure they know who I am, to make sure they know what the needs of my community are. And I think that that's a lot of things that people are lacking in certain sub-communities who are often marginalized. We don't know how to use our voice or even realize that we have a voice to use. So I think if I didn't have any restrictions, my voice would really be out there.
I've had so much fun like learning about you, and I hope that that does become true, because like I see and recognize like leadership in you the same way that I recognize leadership in like AOC or Cori Bush or like any of these figures. I was going to ask you, like, you're such a leader and an activist. What was your journey in becoming like activated in that way?
I think it would stem from my own personal situation that I went through. That I believe that's where it started, like lighting that fire inside of me, because when you're oppressed for so long, you're either gonna drown in that oppression or you're gonna fight your way out of it. And I think in the mix of fighting my way out of my own oppression that was put on me, I realized the power of my voice, the power of my knowledge, and the power of my story and experiences. And I feel like it's my duty to give that back to my community. Like, I have to. I couldn't be doing anything else. I couldn't, because it wouldn't sit right in my soul, knowing that the opportunities that were provided to me, and now I have to give those opportunities back. I have to, because trans people deserve to be whatever they want to be, whether that's a lawyer, a doctor, a judge, a police officer. And I want to make that light known that you can do these things, you know. Just to have one of my members tell me, like, yeah, I was telling people, no, we can work in hospitals. Chastity works in a hospital and she's a manager. Like, she fires and hires people. And I didn't ever think we could work in a hospital. I didn't think a hospital would look twice at us. And I said, it's all about preservation and persistence. I've been applying for BMC for the past 11 years.
Wow.
And I just got in 3 years ago. And, you know, of course, and mind you, within that time, I went on interviews, different departments. And so it will make you think, like, okay, now I went to medical assistant school. Like, every time I applied, I had gained a little bit more education or a little bit more experience. And it's like, okay, so now I'm starting to think, is it because I'm trans? Like, and then it's hard to dictate if that's what it is. But I think after more experience, I finally got in. And to me, that was just opening doors for more trans people to say, okay, look, I can work in a hospital. Let me apply. Let me, you know, knock off those nerves and apply. Chastity did it, so I can do it. You're right. Like, I want my members to do better than what I've done. I want you to exceed things that I'm going to do, because you have the power to do so. And I believe in all of them. So I just think it's so important for me to provide that guidance, that leadership, that support, so people know that you can do whatever you want to do. And speaking of that, you're getting all the juicy tidbits. We haven't publicly announced this yet, but every year, the Transgender Day of Remembrance, that's held in November in honor of, which started off in honor of Rita Hessler, the trans woman who was murdered in Brookline. So every year, half of the proceeds are given to the Transgender Emergency Fund. And this year, with those proceeds, we are going to start our Rita Hessler Scholarship Foundation.
Wow.
Depending on where we are starting off in January, transgender folks will be able to apply for $1,000 scholarships towards going back to school, towards books, whatever educational needs that may be. So I'm very excited to start that, because I feel like if you don't give someone a push or give them a resources to be able to obtain something, they may not ever think they can do it. So I think that's part of our job at the Transgender Emergency Fund, is to provide that push, provide that resource to be able to do that.
So I was going to ask you, like, cases of victims that you might know about, like the one you just described, that are still waiting for justice that you think need more exposure.
It's a very sore subject, seeing as though I'm part of two communities that are oftentimes brutalized by the police, being the trans community and the Black community. And there are certain cases that I can't speak on at the moment in depth that will get more attention. And because we're going to fight for them to get more attention, people think that here in Massachusetts, like, oh, y'all have rights here and everything is so glory. The thing is, a lot of things don't make the news or the radio, the newspaper. It's just like any other political situation. They're only going to show what they want us to see. So there are some serious cases that has happened in Massachusetts over the past few years that have not been publicly highlighted. But yet, when a trans person does something wrong, it's all over the news.
Right.
And meanwhile, they're misgendering the person. So it's very stereotypical. And I feel as though we need justice. We need these police officers to treat us with respect. And this is my situation, how I break it down. Every community, white, Black, Spanish, Asian, cisgender, transgender, gay, lesbian, all have good people and bad people. Like, so just treat all the bad people the same and all the good people the same. I don't think it's that hard. So I think police have a lot to learn, a lot more education. I remember I was even trying to give Boston Police Department training, and it's like, oh, we can do it online. And I'm like, well, no, it needs to be in person. I'm like, oh, we can make it a online training. Okay, how many people are going to be having that online training on while they're on their phone?
Right.
It's like, it's a different situation when you have that person who's training you, who's a part of that community right in front of your face. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I'm not going to give up on this training. I think is necessary and is vital for police brutality. My own situation with the police, interference with the police, is that last night I was with my ex, the abusive relationship. I called the police and they came and they clearly see I had a bloody lip, eye, nose bleeding. And they said, I'm sorry, this is not domestic violence. This is two men having a disagreement.
Oh, no.
So how can you say that to me, but then in another turn around and say they don't need training?
Right.
They don't need training. Like, or if you pull over a transgender woman and her license may have not been updated with her gender marker, you see a woman in front of you, but yet you're like, sir, step out of the car.
Right.
Where are you going today, sir? Like, it's like people go out of their way to want to harm us, to disrespect us, and that includes the police. So I can talk for hours about that.
So I'll just throw like some household rhetoric at you. So something common right now is Black lives don't matter until Black trans lives matter. So I didn't know if you had a response or if that stuck to you.
I didn't really give much thought of it, but I believe 100% in that slogan, because you cannot say Black Lives Matter without Black trans lives, because we are Black. I was Black before I was trans, even though I feel I was born this way, but I came out Black. I came out Black, and it's like, how can that matter? And over the past 3 months, you had the situation with Ayanna Dior, who was beaten in a gas station by a group of Black men. And then the most recent with the 3 women in Los Angeles, and it's like, wait a minute, how can you sit here and say Black Lives Matter one day, the next day then you beating on a Black trans woman, then the next day Black Lives Matter?
Right.
Like, that don't sit right with me. It don't sit right with my community members. And this is why we're starting the conversation. We had our first dinner discussion back in February it's called Bridging the Gap, with straight Black men and trans women of color. So I partnered with Martin Hassan from the Black Men Foundation and Black Lives Matter. So he provided the straight Black men, I provided the trans women, and we really started to break down some of these issues and misconceptions within our prospective communities, because I feel like education can save our lives. So our next session will be next month, September 12th at Franklin Park, Bridging the Gap session 2, where we're going to continue to break down these issues, and hopefully we can take this conversation on the road, because it needs to happen in many other states. Like, so you can break it down. We're human. Like, if I glance at you, that don't mean I want you. Like, it's so many things that we need to break down that can just save a person's life just by understanding. So yes, Black lives don't matter until Black trans lives matter.
You had said the website for the Mass Trans Emergency Fund. Are there other ways that people can find you and learn more about you?
Yes. So we have a Facebook page, Transgender Emergency Fund of Massachusetts, and that's also our Instagram as well. And then you can follow me at Miss Chastity 85 on Instagram or Miss Chastity Bowick on Facebook. And then also don't forget the website, transgenderemergencyfund.org, where you can, if you are a member seeking assistance, you can fill out an application right there. You can donate there. You can fill out a volunteer application there, and just learn about our recent and upcoming events.
And then, okay, last question is kind of a double question. So tomorrow is Marsha P Johnson's birthday. I want to ask you, have we gotten anywhere? Do you feel like we've gotten anywhere since Marsha P Johnson? Or is it just kind of like a facade that like white people like to think, oh, we've come so far, but maybe we haven't?
It's definitely on the latter end of we've come so far, but we really haven't. So I will say this, Auntie Marsha had opened so many doors for us. Some of them have been closed, but we are continuing to fighting to open those doors. And it's people like Marsha P Johnson and Sylvia Rivera that continue to give me the fire, like, so no, Chastity, you got to keep going. You can't give up. That's what they want. They want you to give up, not succeed. So I think, yes, we've gotten a long way since Marsha P Johnson's time, but we have a long way to go. Just because we are on TV now, you know, being, when they have us on TV for oftentimes it's before their entertainment. And like, oh, look at the trans, oh, she got a beard. And so it's like, oh yeah, we're being successful now in entertainment. Yeah, some of them are making the income, but it's still, some of it is out of mockery. Right. So we have a long way to go, but I think that I know I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Marsha P Johnson at all.
You are amazing. Do you have any, did I cover everything? Is there something you want to say?
Just please encourage your friends, family, co-workers to get involved in this cause. There's so many ways to get involved, and just choose whatever way is best for you. And we look forward to having your allyship.
Know what I want, but not which way to go. Is it the hair? Is it the nails? Is it the soft skin? Is it the burden of eyes on you? Is it sugar? Is it spice? Is it perfection? If that's the case, then maybe I'm the truth. Yeah, I'm a self-made woman. I don't need permission from you. Yeah, I'm a self-made woman. Can't tell me what to break, can't tell me what to do. the burden of eyes on you. It's in your heart, it's in your soul, you want perfection. So work it, baby, and live your truth. Yeah, I'm a soulmate woman. I don't need permission from you. Yeah, I'm a soulmate woman. Can't tell me what to be, can't tell me what to do. Yeah, I'm a soulmate woman. I don't need permission from you. Yeah, I'm a soulmate woman. Can't tell me what to be, can't tell me what to do. Yeah, I'm a soulmate woman. I don't need permission from you. Yeah, I'm a soulmate woman. Can't tell me what to be, can't tell